STORMWITCH was formed in 1981 in Heidenheim, Germany, by childhood friends Harold Spangler on lead guitar, Stefan Kaufmann on rhythm guitar, and Andy Mueck on vocals. They'd be joined by drummer Peter Langer and bassist Jürgen Wanchi-Wanenwetsch. According to Andy, the name STORMWITCH came up in 1983. In 1983, we named our band STORMWITCH. Storm for the music, and Witch for dark and mysterious lyrics. By 1984, Wanchi would leave and be replaced by Ronny Gleesberg, just in time to record their first album, Walpurgis Night, released by Gamma Records. The first track on the album, Cave of Steamful, is a pretty good representation of STORMWITCH's music. It starts with a fairly straightforward rock riff and then expands on it into an impressively composed melodic rock epic, along with Andy's insane vocal range. Gamma Records was no big deal, but it was a good opportunity to stay independent. We could create our own cover, choose our own photographer, we could wear the clothes we wanted, and could play our music in the way that we liked it. And the album cover is pretty cool. We see some warrior lady wearing leather and studs, standing in front of a campfire and wielding a double mace. I wouldn't change anything. Musically, the entire album is a great mix of melodic hard rock and technical ability, with galloping tracks like Skull and Crossbones, and overall, just amazing guitar work throughout the album. STORMWITCH would continue this approach for their second album, Tales of Terror. The songwriting is another amazing blend of head-banging melodic riffs and raw, energetic solos with that classically inspired feel of European metal. At this point, the band decided to give themselves more American-sounding names. Andy became Andy Aldrian, Harold became Lee Taro, Stefan became Steve Merchant, Ronny Gleesberg became Ronny Pearson, and Peter Langer became Pete Lancer. Along with the new names, STORMWITCH also starts to introduce some poppier material here as well.
Oh, trust in the fire, like the night is cold, it will keep you warm. Oh, trust in the fire, the shadows of darkness can do you no harm, so trust in the fire.
But the majority of the album is along the same lines as the first, with outstanding riffs and amazing solos. The visual presentation is still fairly dark though, like the album cover, which depicts a creepy little girl standing next to a tombstone. The most interesting part is that the tombstone has the album title on it with a birth year of 1985 and no death year. I'm not sure I fully understand the symbolism, but I still like it. It feels very German. STORMWITCH would shift away from that look though with the release of their third album, Stronger Than Heaven. They'd lose the leather and spikes for more stylized costumes here, mainly 17th, 18th century Baroque era. At that time, the ideas came from Lee and Steve to wear Baroque costumes, contrary to all expectations. Lee Taro always hated speed, thrash, black, death metal. He always loved melodic songs. Black Romantic was a period in English literature also called Gothic. The scenes of these novels were always old castles or monasteries. We loved the atmosphere of places like that. Even with the new look, STORMWITCH still maintained a highly technical playing style, as evidenced by the excellent album closer, Dorian Gray. With their fourth album, Beauty and the Beast, STORMWITCH would fully embrace their new look. While their overall sound didn't change much, STORMWITCH would bring in keyboards for this album and blend in even more catchy melodies with their powerful songwriting. The entire album is excellent from beginning to end. You get a few fun, poppier tracks, along with plenty of intricately melodic classical passages. We even finally get a STORMWITCH music video for Emerald Eye. The Emerald Eye! The Emerald Eye! Like a torch in the night, turning darkness to light. I'm reaching out for the sky. The Emerald Eye. The camera angles and effects are a little much, but the costumes are freaking great, and so is the solo. We even get an excellent ballad with Tears by the Firelight.
Tears by the firelight, he won't be home tonight. Sparks will begin to glow, the end of the war. Church bells proclaim the peace, they welcome the returnees. The victory is ours, but she thinks what's mine.
To complete the look, we also get a cool gothic album cover featuring a lady looking at a monster in a mirror. Why she's holding a skull is anybody's guess.
She is by the light, and fire burns down. Words beg as dreams die, seals red as blood.
Those keyboards would stick around for STORMWITCH's 5th album, Eye of the Storm. But Ronny Pearson wouldn't. He'd leave and be replaced by Andy Hunter.
In the darkness I see paradise. In the night I find my way.
Overall, Eye of the Storm doesn't really work for me. It feels way overproduced and leans a little too hard into the poppy side. But hey, we get another music video for Eye of the Storm. Maybe they only do videos for songs with I in the title.
Eye of the storm, take me away. Show me a place where to rest and to stay. Eye of the storm, your power and your might is able to turn every dark into light.
It's not a particularly good video, but it's still pretty cool to see Lee and Steven playing their solos. Unfortunately, the album cover looks kinda like a bad fantasy adventure novel, one of those really thick ones. By 1991, the guitarists would all leave, apparently on good terms for personal reasons. Harold and Stefan would eventually be replaced by Damir Uzinovich and Joe Gassman, while Andy Hunter would be replaced by Martin Albrecht. This lineup would record STORMWITCH's 6th album, War of the Wizards. This feels like a much better follow-up to the Beauty and the Beast album to me than Eye of the Storm did. It is a very poppy album, but in a great way. It feels a lot more fun than Eye of the Storm, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I love Magic Mirror.
Oh, tell me, my queen, what I see now. Tell what I shall be. Ducks and raiders. So say what you mean. He belongs to
I can't say it's totally free of 90s cheese though, and it does get a little bogged down in some spots, like the title track, which gets a little too close to Faith No More for its own good.
Yeah, they're fixing the death. Gas phones dressed in red. They are breaking of stone, singing to the walls. To the tunnel man, in the last fight for your lives. Let's turn the corners. To rush over us by far, they're shooting apples of tar. See them burning here and there. Some may help us, yet us near.
But the guitar playing is all solid, and overall, I find this a really easy album to listen to. Not long after this album, Joe would leave the band, and STORMWITCH would continue as a 4-piece for their next album, Shogun, based on the James Clavell novel.
Everything he left behind, familiar faces, his own kind. All his friends he left to his, turned up and left them to their tears.
This album is just okay. One of the more interesting things about it is that STORMWITCH seems to just be experimenting with different genres at this point. There's more blues involved, and there's an entire flamenco-flavored track as well.
I'm sure he can tell me you lie. So the Spaniard began to talk.
In my opinion, Shogun is mostly saved by Damir's guitar solos. After Shogun, STORMWITCH started work on their next album to be titled Death Poems, but the band would break up before that happened, with everyone going on to different musical projects. However, in 2002, Andy Aldrian would resurrect STORMWITCH, featuring an all-new lineup, with Martin Winkler on guitar, Mark Oppold on drums, Fabian Schwartz on guitar, Dominic Schwartz on bass, and Alex Schmidt on keyboards. They would release 2 albums, Dance with the Witches in 2002 and Witchcraft in 2004. Both of these albums feel pretty unfocused to me. Everything sounds good production-wise, but the songwriting just isn't there. This bizarre video for Fallen from God gives you an idea of what you're not missing.
Fallen from God. Now here I stand. I don't believe. Do not save me in the judgment day.
But that lineup would break up in 2005, leaving just Andy to continue on alone. However, he would be joined by returning member Jürgen Wanenwedge. That's right, old Wanchy is back. After going through a few different members, they'd eventually be joined by guitarists Ralph Stoney and Volker Schmietau and drummer Micah Casper to record Season of the Witch in 2015. Then in 2018, they'd reshuffle again, and Andy, Volker, and Jürgen would be joined by guitarist Tobias Kipp and Mark Opald again on drums to record Bound to the Witch. At some point, I guess they just decided that the word witch must be in all their album titles.
You are bound. You never had a choice. You are bound. No escape from the deep dark voice. We're all bound to the witch.
If you're going to listen to any of these newer Stormwitch albums, this latest one would be the one to check out. It doesn't live up to those earlier albums, but it has the closest to that old energy. And that's Stormwitch, an amazing early heavy metal band and pioneers in German metal. They have some truly epic albums, and if you like heavy rock with great melodies, you have to check out Stormwitch. Your homework for Stormwitch is Walpurgis Night, Tales of Terror, Stronger Than Heaven, The Beauty and the Beast, and War of the Wizards. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thanks for watching.